Welcome to the Mama Genius podcast. There's a moment between the inhale and exhale, that small, quiet space that holds its breath. Most of us rush through it, filling with noise, doing, fixing, trying to move forward. But what if that space, that silence, isn't empty? What if it's the most sacred part of all? Today's circle principle: use silence for reflection. In circle, silence is alive, not awkward. It's where we listen to our hearts instead of our heads, where we hear what's been whispering beneath the busyness. Before we rush into what's next, let's pause together, take a breath. This episode is an invitation to honor the space in between, to rediscover clarity, connection, and calm through quiet. I'm joined by Sande Hart, mother, grandmother, author, and founder of the Global Women's Village. She calls this liminal space a place of transformation between what was and what's next. Together, we'll explore how silence can become a bridge between belonging and how pausing to breathe might be the most powerful thing we do all day. Welcome to the Mama Genius podcast. I'm your host, Michelle DeKeyser, and this is your calm pause in the middle of mom life and business building. Each episode will take a few minutes to slow down, reconnect, and reflect on what matters most, because you're safe to slow down and you don't have to do it alone. Let's breathe again together. Welcome, Sande. I'm excited to have you today, and I got your book right here.
That's sweet. Hi, Michelle. Thank you.
So we met at the World Parliament of Religions in the Women's Village, and we met there. And it was the first time for me where I really did so much in-person circling. I've been doing virtual. I didn't quite understand the capacity of how much Women's Circle has been happening all these years. And it was so enlightening and wonderful to see you in action.
Oh, thank you. Well, I got to tell you, yeah, and we not only met in the village, we met in the red tent, which was in the village. It was like the inner sanctum of the village, this room that was just draped in red. And even though we had lights that were overhead, we had candle lights, and nobody turned the lights on for the entire week of this, the world's largest conference that convenes all different types of faith, every faith tradition and secular ethic, walk of life. And for hundreds of workshops and plenaries and rituals and ceremony and ways of expression and art, all focused on the parliament of the world's religions, I discovered that women don't have a voice in this space, a specific voice that, because women, we convene differently, we problem solve differently, we even hear and listen differently. We have to have elements of nature, the mother tree, a water fountain, and an earth altar. We wanted women to express themselves, so it had to be interactive and immersive. The first thing I ordered was comfortable benches and a big comfy sofa, because this is how women convene. This is how we meet. It's how we start talking in a safe place. Sit down on a bench in this busy conference, and next thing you know, you're talking to your potential best friend about the real conditions of the world and how they're affecting us. And that's how women problem solve and come alive. If you ever felt tension in your life or something is just a mess, we have this condition. It's the release of oxytocin in our body that is called the tend be friend hormone. We're going to rush to calling a friend or our mom or a sister or a BFF. And because that's where our safety net, we created that safety net.
And I feel that's exactly what Circle's able to do, like you did for all these women. And we take it into these smaller moments to share who we are. I'm going to turn this over to you as we're talking about this liminal space, using silence for reflection. A lot of times we're jumping on top of each other's words instead of allowing for that space. I'd like you to go over and open that up to how we're going to be in circle, the two of us, and we're inviting you as a podcast guest to also be in circle with us. Really, if you can just sit with us and pause the podcast, share what would come out of you in this moment to start this process of hearing your inner voice. I'm passing it around to you,
I'm
Sande.
so happy, because this is the ancient way of women convening. Circle can be done 100 different ways, but there are some primary principles that are really good to know. Let me run through those real quick and then we'll do some practice. Let's start with the protocols for convening. We all agree, and this is good for the facilitator because there's no head of the table in a circle, to have the agreement one person speaks at a time. Let's honor the voices of the other. And then there are other ways of facilitating that. Perhaps you want to pause, like Michelle does so beautifully in her circles, to bear witness. Raise your hands after you've said, I'm complete. Let everyone acknowledge they hear you. Allow that pregnant pause. Allow that moment to sink in. That's regenerative listening.
Yes.
We're not passing it on. That's that patriarchal charm. And let's all be witty and fast and quick and pick it up and have the courage to speak up. We're going to work. This is the antithesis. We are going to pause and hear. Sacred listening, reverent listening, listen deeply, not only for how you relate, but that here's a person sharing her heart and trusting you in a sacred space. I got chills. So agreeing for sacred listening, paying attention to the impulse to want to, and have something to add to that. Pay attention to where that's coming from. This is a moment of going into that space in between. We're going to come back and honor confidentiality. That way I know you're not taking this out in the streets or if we know common people or what have you. Again, it's a sacred circle. You can go on to our website and we have a list of all the different circle principles, but those are your fundamental circle principles. All right. Let's start with regenerative listening. I'm going to invite you to take a moment. We'll go around. Typically, I would go around, and Michelle, I'll do this with you. Let's talk about being in the spaces in between. When you are being listened to, what does that feel like? Think about a time you were truly listened to. How did you feel being truly listened to?
The first thing that comes to me is going inward, what was in my body. Because a lot of times we're like, think about the thoughts and things, and the first thing that pops in my head, but I was like, well, what did I actually feel like? And I felt safe. Safety has been a big thing for me, not always feeling safe in a space, especially in a women's circle. Sandy and I were in circle this morning before this podcast. And when I was speaking, I could feel the eyes listening to me. People weren't distracted. They were there to witness what was coming from my heart. And so I felt safe and alive. When I'm in that state, I'm like, wait, where did that come from? And you realize you're listening to your heart rather than your head. Because a lot of times we're like, what should I say? What should I think? Those shoulds get washed away when you feel that connection and safety of knowing they're here to witness you. And it's not about you did this or I did this or how do I fix this? It's just about listening from the heart to say, that's what needed to be said today, or that's what I need to do. I take that with my kids now and listen to them so they have space. Even when they're silent, I lean into that pause and wait. I don't feel rushed anymore. Like I've got to do something. And a lot of times I will make sure I have the time if I go sit with them. Like I don't want them to feel rushed when they're trying to share their feelings as well. And so I found that from being listened to, I know now how to more listen to and not to feel like that silence needs to be stepped upon. A lot of times they're like, oh, my turn to talk. Yay, my turn. Usually your turn is not needed a lot, especially in the parent situation. And with that, I am complete.
And I love this part too. You've just expressed that you're complete, but now you're receiving acknowledgement. That part of us that feels compelled to speak or even problem solve. By the way, that's another principle. We're not here to solve any problems. No unsolicited advice, which is otherwise known as criticism, if you ask my daughter. And what's alive in you? And that's a moment for a pregnant pause, another pregnant pause to go, okay, is really what I have to say that important? Have you had an experience where you knew what you had to add was really a great contribution, you chose to stay back and keep that to yourself.
I've been doing that more with my kids. You can feel when you're like, the mama bear comes out, and you're like, I want to fix that or I want to solve that. And I've learned from the pregnant pause that half the time, like you said, the unsolicited advice, criticism or whatever it might be, or like, let me fix it for you. It's not needed, because it's about them coming, and yourself as well, for yourself too, coming into who you are and being clear with your own decision making. And so passing that on to your kids, because you're not always with them. And so it's learning through that pregnant pause. It gives you the chance to have that reflective moment that we're not quite really having to solve it for someone else. It's giving them the space to be seen and heard, and let them realize they know.
Another principle of the protocols is to speak from the I, not use the language. My experience with everything you said, the impact was starting back when you talked about listening, paying attention to when you choose not to speak, when the impulse is to speak, and honoring that moment between wanting to speak and speaking or not speaking. That liminal space is alchemical. Let's take a moment and see the power of everything you said after you said why you didn't choose. By the way, this is not what I would do in circle, because this is more of an analytical, but I am wanting to illustrate this point to us in this particular platform, how alchemical sacred listening is. And what you're doing is you're sacred listening back to yourself, listening in rather than listening out. So we just talked about listening in and listening out. Those are two examples of real going around. Because another thing about circle facilitation, I want to take this moment to say, I do not control the narrative. I may know that I'm going to come up with a bunch of questions, so I'm prepared. That's all part of that domination trance. We're going to hear something, and that alchemy is stirring. Literally, we're going around a circle. And by the way, it's always good to go clockwise, in alignment with the sun and the planetary system. And we're going around. What we're really doing is stirring the cauldron. Let it go, because you're going to hear that we're all going to be inspired and brought to different places. That's the alchemy of circle. Let the alchemy do her work and get out of the way.
I love that. I love the stirring of it. What I love about circle the most is that principle, the idea of there is no one in front of the classroom. We are all leaders in that seat, and that's why we're stirring it. Like, the facility is there to stir, not to direct, because it needs to flow wherever it flows. I thought this podcast was going to go one way, but it needed to go the way it did to get out some of the principles, and to get out the way that to get the understanding of what is a circle. Sometimes that needs to happen. I can't sit there and say, oh, well, it needs to be this way, it needs to be that way. And because we as women roll differently, let's embrace that. I just want to pause at this moment. If you're listening to this podcast, pause for a minute. And if you were sitting with us in this conversation, what comes off your heart right now? Push pause if you're by yourself or comfortable to say the words out loud. Hear your own voice reverberating what you've learned about liminal space, or how you've been stirred today. Take a moment to do that, and we'll be right back. If this podcast feels like a calm pause in your day, that's exactly what Mama Genius Circles are for. Circles are virtual gatherings where moms come to pause, connect, and listen to what their hearts are really saying. It's a space where you feel supported, gain clarity, and take those crazy ideas that light you up and really make them real. Bring your coffee or your candle and come as you are, and reconnect to the women beneath the busy to-do list. Join us at our next free circle at mamageniushub.com/co-create. Can't wait to see you at the next circle. This next part was actually inspired by a conversation I had with Sande, where we were talking about how breath helps us relax and calm, but we breathe in different ways. I decided to start asking guests, How do you breathe? What allows you to exhale? I'll give an example for today. Like I was just kind of feeling that listlessness and in the middle of the day where I was like, I should be doing some of my check off list, right? And then what I did instead is like, what do I need to do to breathe today? I went, I opened the glass door and I just stood in the patio and was watching the leaves fall. And I was able to exhale in that moment. When we think about being busy moms or just the busyness of life, what are those moments that we can pause? How is it something that pops into your mind to how you breathe, Sandy?
Took practice. This really deserves practice. Find something you do 5 times a day. We typically go to the ladies' room 5 times a day. Maybe in and out of your car or pass by a certain place. Create a habit of noticing these 5 times a day. Let that be your reminder to pause. Listen in. What's going on in my body? That's how I breathe. I practice that. Now, what happens is I'm creating new neural pathways. I'm creating new thought systems. That's how a habit gets formed. That's why it runs in the background. That's how you inform your subconscious. Now you're creating conditions for a habit. 5 times a day, you're going to catch yourself going within. Then that notice is going to happen all day long. It's going to be a second nature to who you are. You're putting your kids in the car. You're walking through the market. You're doing mom stuff. You're making dinner or watching dinner be made. However you mom, that's going to be a daily part, because when we stop and recognize why we go, 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 we do have to care for our children or responsibilities. This isn't to say that's not necessary. It's also to say we're in control. We're separate from our breath, feelings, sensations, emotions. When they show up, we have a way of victimizing or blaming or shaming. It's like, oh man, I'm so busy. You taught me this, Michelle. Are you not doing what you want to do? If you're not choosing to do it, why are you doing it? Isn't there another way of performing this task? So that's how I breathe. I practice. I was gifted this practice. I'm 64, 20 years. No, 40 years ago. I was 20. Wow, I'm not that old. 20 years ago, I read in the back of Success magazine how to do that practice. It took me less than 20 days. If you procrastinate, do it now, 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 do it now. 15 times, 5 times a day. Before you know it, you will not procrastinate. I haven't procrastinated in 40 years.
Wow.
I've also been in touch with my sensations. I was still disconnected until writing the Liminal Odyssey. It was then all of this came into being. It's like, wow, I've already been doing that stuff. It takes practice and it'll come in your time. Let's not beat ourselves up as moms. Can we be gentle with ourselves? Give our soul a hug.
It's funny you said disconnect and reconnect, because that's what we spoke about today in the circle that joined us. I'd love to hear your impressions or takeaways from today's circle.
Oh, it was a juicy takeaway.
I like that word.
You started by bringing up honesty. And we never circled back to that. But for me, it was very much alive in everything I was doing. And then you led us into a journaling and a meditation. And in journaling, I wrote a lot about integrity. Part of listening, having integrity in our thoughts, in our words. Because when we think and we speak, those two are not disconnected. Let's start by noticing the words we use. And for me, that integrity of my language, that was a good practice for me. I started by taking the word just out of my vocabulary. I don't use the word just. There you go, girl. Take it out. And it's sneaky. And I catch myself, I did today. I just want to, and I said, I just want to, nope, I want to tell you. That little practice will show up in everything. You'll start noticing when you're telling a white lie, and then you start dropping into that space in between and going, is that necessary? Is the truth not being honest in my integrity with myself? See how the interconnection of these practices, simple practices, you think I'm going to wipe that word out of my vocabulary. Yet what really is happening is I'm not telling white lies. I'm not expanding or deflating the truth. Where does that come from? I wonder.
I started noticing I kept saying just a mom.
Oh, heavens. Yeah.
When you put the word just in front of phrases or things you think of like that, and you are deflating your own value in everything. And so when you put that word just in there, and like you said, the white lies or this comes in to it, but it really hit me when I kept using the words just a mom. And that's all I am. I am just a mom. And
Now,
when
we
you
may not think that in our mind, right? You may not think you're just a mom. You may know you are a powerhouse superhero mom. So, what is it about us that says just a mom? There is something there.
There is,
That's
and
fun.
it could be behind that, or that's really what I was thinking, or just in those times. It's a word to really play with and try to remove to see what comes up when you take the word out. How do you feel? And again, all this for us as women really comes back to the way it makes us feel. It's not about the goals or these things. It's how are you feeling in this moment when you check in with yourself? And that's why I've gone back to the check-in process for the Mama Genius and all the circles. Yes, we were on the H of check-in, which is honesty. And so we were circling, I didn't quite circle back to it because it's going to be a month-long conversation
Yeah.
on honesty, but it's really being honest with yourself. And when you ask yourself, if you use the term, I'm just a mom, what does that mean to you? Are you still the powerhouse? Be honest with yourself. You don't have to say it to anyone else. Just start opening up the honesty question to yourself as well. The last thing that I know we're running out of time, I really want to dive into learning more about the Global Women's Village and everything coming forth.
The Global Women's Village, Michelle being on our advisory circle is such an incredible contribution. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
It means so much to myself and our co-architects. The Global Women's Village, everything we do here is to advance the understanding of what it means to be a woman who features a new archetype, a woman who recognizes her power and agency in making a difference in this world, understanding who we are in this evolving world. We are evolving as a species. Science is showing it, cosmology is demonstrating it. We feel it in our bones. Things are changing. The gap between generations is wildly diverse. The young ones that are coming in right now have a completely different mindset, much more evolved state of being in a more conscious awareness than my generation, being a boomer. We have a role in this. It's time for women to pull our shoulders back. No blaming, no shaming, no victimizing, to know who we are is, at the original blueprint of who we are. We're the givers, sustainers of life. Us and water, there's no existence without either one. And our womb is known by our African sisters as the first ocean. Who came first? We are the carriers of water, the chalice of the world. And I think it's about time that we start owning that. My
Yes.
sisters call it the queen, however you identify. That's what the Global Women's Village is. Yes, we do our healing. We have to look at these normalized conditions and what our role is in them as well, right? I personally, and I said this in the book, I don't want to poison the water hole when we get there. So we have a cleansing process to do. And it's not hard. As a matter of fact, it's freedom. It's liberating. When we stop and go, what are these chains that are binding us, to really own who we are? Apologize. Stop apologizing. A woman walked by me in the market and said she was sorry. And I stopped her. I said, why are you apologizing? We do that. So my point being here is that the role of the Women's Village is to provide a safe space for women to come into understanding, be a part of healing, and say, come to mother, come to
Mhm.
mother. We've
I love
got
that.
this. We're going
I
to
love
love you
that.
back.
It's about us coming together to support
Yeah.
each other. We've been so disconnected to really come into the healing. So we're not tainting the waters, but to really feel that connection. And what does it feel like in your body when you are connected, and how we connect to each other. And honestly, why I've been wanting to do this podcast, why I want to do any of this, I really feel that through circling, through Women's Circle, we learn to connect, open up to who we are, and witness others. I've learned how much more similar I am to other women than different. There isn't a comparison because we're living in our own genius and creating new things. So when you're doing your own thing, you're creating and showing that to your kids. Coming back to what you said about the kids is stopping that perpetual martyrdom of women who say it's the kids' dreams. When those daughters become moms, then whose dream is it? Whoever lives out the dream if we keep that going. So it stops with the moms and women right now to what is my genius? What is my dream? Like you said earlier, why are you doing things you don't want to do? How do we recognize that? How do we stop all that? My answer, through circling with each other.
It's the only way. I've been doing Circle for 30 years. It's the only way we're going to heal this planet. And if you don't believe me, ask why haven't we done it yet? Circles are proliferating. That's all I want to say.
So I looked at Wikipedia and women's circle. There is no definition. We're not defining these things. I'm going to come to the Global Women's Village and we're going to come together and create something that actually defines what this is so we can get it out more so more people can do it.
Yeah. That's okay. It's not out there. That's the
It's okay.
old paradigm.
It's time to define it and get it out there.
Well,
You're in
time to normalize it. We can only define it. So I don't let that be a
we are just in the right time to come together. We hope that you will learn from this, join us in a circle, or create your own. Let's get more women circling. We'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, Sandy. Bye, everyone. Thank you for sharing this space with us today. I hope this reflection gave you a moment of calm and reminded you that you're safe to slow down. Please share with someone who also needs to slow down. If you are craving more connection, come join a Mama Genius Circle, where we breathe, reflect, and create together. You'll find all the details at mamageniushub.com/co-create. Until next time, breathe, listen, and keep following your heart's next gentle step.